A world of stars, distant planets, and ancient secrets waits in the far reaches of the galaxy. Deep in the uncharted fringes of space, a mysterious encounter will spark an unexpected transformation, a transformation that holds the potential to alter the course of the universe itself. A young woman with a forbidden gift, a battle-worn soldier with a dark past, and the collision of fates they never could have imagined. What if the threads that bind us aren't just those of fate, but something much more, something woven in silence, and yet louder than any cry? Beneath the flickering light of distant stars, a battle raged on the war-torn surface of Xanthelis, a planet once known for its serene beauty, now reduced to a ravaged hellscape. The sound of clashing starships echoed in the air, while the ground trembled with each explosion. Amidst the chaos, an unlikely figure moved through the smoke-filled streets of a ruined city, a woman with silver hair, her long braid trailing behind her like a comet's tail. Zara was no ordinary woman. A descendant of the ancient Slitheri, her people were rumored to possess the rare and dangerous ability to weave their life force into the very fabric of their surroundings. It was an ability feared and coveted across the galaxy. But Zara, having seen the destruction that her power had caused, kept it hidden, weaving her hair into protective shields, using it to heal the wounded. That is, until one fateful day, when her gift would no longer be a choice, it would be her only hope. It all began when a soldier, battered and broken, stumbled into the city's refuge. His name was Kale, a mercenary with a reputation so dangerous it had earned him the title of the Ghost of Xanthelis. He was infamous for leaving no survivors in his wake, a cold killer with eyes as haunted as the galaxy itself. He had fought on the front lines of countless wars and, with the Xanthelis conflict nearing its end, his body had taken the toll. Burned by plasma, scorched by laser fire, Kale was nothing more than a shell of the man he once was, until the day his fate collided with Zara's. Zara knelt beside the soldier's fallen form, her pulse quickening as she assessed his wounds. His armor was cracked, blood seeping from his chest, and his breathing was shallow. The air around them was thick with the smoke of the battlefield, and yet, in this moment, it felt as though time had frozen. Zara knew the legends. She knew that if she chose to help him, it wouldn't just be a simple act of kindness, it would be something far more profound. "Please," Kale gasped, his voice rough with pain. I've lived through too much. I can't die here." Zara hesitated. She had been trained not to intervene, especially not for someone like him. He was a mercenary, a killer, a man who had lived his life outside the law. But something about the desperation in his eyes pulled her in. She reached into her hair, taking a few strands, and in an instant, the air around them seemed to hum with energy. The first stitch she made was light, almost hesitant, just a thin thread of hair weaving through his flesh. The magic of her people was ancient, and with each movement, Zara felt the pulse of the galaxy itself respond, the threads of existence intertwining with her own life force. The wound began to close, sealing itself under her touch. Kale winced, his fingers twitching as though resisting the healing process, but Zara continued. With every strand she wove, her heart raced. She felt the power building within her, felt the bond growing between them. Kale whispered, his voice barely audible as his chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. "You're doing something to me." Zara didn't answer. Her focus was entirely on the delicate task. But she could feel it, something was changing in him. The air around them pulsed with an otherworldly energy as the wound on Kale's chest closed, not just healing the flesh, but altering something deep within him. It was as if her power was unlocking something hidden inside him, something he didn't know was there. With the last stitch, Zara pulled her hair back, feeling the thread of magic unwind. Kale's breathing became steadier. His wounds were gone, but his body, his very essence, seemed different now. Zara looked down at him, her heart hammering in her chest. Something had shifted. Kale's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises glowing faintly with an alien light. He sat up, his body moving with a fluidity and strength that belied the injuries he had just sustained. For a moment, he stared at her, unblinking. "What have you done?" Kale asked, his voice now smooth, almost inhuman, the rasp replaced by something more profound. Zara stepped back, fear blooming in her chest. She had never seen anything like this. She had only ever healed wounds, never transformed someone. I didn't mean to, Zara stammered, her hands shaking as she took a step back. I didn't know, this wasn't supposed to happen. Kale stood, his posture now unnaturally tall and imposing. His body radiated an eerie energy, as though the very air around him bent to his will. His gaze met hers, and for the first time, Zara saw a flicker of something, recognition, perhaps a connection that she couldn't explain. You saved me, he said, his voice now deeper, almost resonating with a strange vibration. But you've awakened something in me. Something older. Zara's heart skipped a beat as she realized what was happening. His transformation was a side effect of her power, an unforeseen consequence of healing a man so broken. But now, she could sense the pull. Kale wasn't just healed, he had become something more. A voice inside her, deep in her mind, whispered the ancient Slitheri teachings. The Slitheri were not just healers, they were the custodians of an ancient power, the ability to weave fate, to alter the very threads of the universe. And Kale, the mercenary, the killer, was now bound to her in ways neither of them could understand. Kale flexed his hands, the air crackling as energy surged around him. What am I now? He asked, his eyes narrowing with growing awareness. What have I become? Zara took a step forward, a quiet realization dawning upon her. You've become part of me, she whispered. We are bound now. You carry the power of the Slitheri, and she faltered, realizing the truth of her words. I've unleashed something that could change everything. Kale stepped closer to her, his expression unreadable. Then we must control it. Together. In that moment, Zara understood. This was no accident. The universe had thrown them together, and their destinies were now irrevocably intertwined. Kale's transformation was more than just physical, it was spiritual. The universe had chosen them to be something more. Something that could heal not just the wounded, but the broken fabric of the universe itself. Zara's heart raced as Kale reached out to her, his energy crackling in the air. She placed her hand in his, feeling the deep connection between them surge. We'll face the galaxy together, Zara said softly, her voice a mixture of awe and fear. Kale nodded, his transformation now complete, his strength far beyond anything a mortal soldier could possess. And we'll remake it, one thread at a time. The stars above seemed to pulse with life as they walked into the unknown, together.